Hello everyone. In this video, you will get to know the three qualities that are important to be a great tester. This will help you in deciding if software testing career is the right one for you. Mostly, the first question in interviews that you attend would be, tell me about yourself. This video will help you better position yourself to answer that question. There are three qualities that are important to be a great software tester. What are they? Curiosity to learn, big picture thinking, and attention to detail. Alright, let's go. Let's look at the first quality, curiosity to learn. What makes software testing exciting and also challenging is the exploration of software. Exploration is part and parcel of software testing. Exploration is done to find out how the software under test works and gain detailed knowledge about that software. Only when you learn the software in detail, you will be able to gauge whether the software is as per what is expected out of it by validating whether the software is doing the right thing and verifying whether the software is doing the things in the right fashion. For this, you need to be curious to learn, explore, and experiment. In some cases, you might not have the software available to explore upfront, and there might be documents available to tell you how the software should behave. These documents are good starting points to learn how the software works. Based on these documents, which are usually the requirements and the functional specifications, you can come up with a plan on how to test the software. There are a couple of ways to do this. One is to come up with a great test plan with test cases, and the other is to have a general charter without detailed test cases. Charters are helpful if your software is expected to go through a lot of changes during development and you need to rework the test cases because of those changes. Mind maps are another way to document the software behavior. Test plans, charters, mind maps are all helpful in exploring the software and noting down a plan to test the software. For this effort to be successful, again, your curiosity to learn is an important aspect. Along with the curiosity to learn the software under test, you need to also have the curiosity to learn the technology stack used for building the software. There are many things involved in this. Modern software testers are expected to be good at programming languages, not just for automation, but also for reviewing the product code along with the developers. This review is called pair programming. This is getting more popular these days and getting traction. As a software tester, you also need to be curious to learn the operating systems for which the software is built, the deployment infrastructure like containers, and the cloud infrastructure platforms. You also need to be curious to learn about the databases that are used by the software to store data, the storage infrastructure in which the software writes and reads the files from, and the details of the networks over which the product communicates with other systems. You might be already aware that you need to be well versed with the automation tools that are used to automate your test cases. Note that these days the software under test changes rapidly based on frequent customer feedback. And so sometimes the technology stack could also change based on that. As a software tester, you got to be nimble and quick to learn the new changes and be ready to test the new scenarios if they are working correctly. You should also be curious to learn about continuous integration, continuous delivery, and continuous deployment. You should also be familiar with the DevOps model in which many software systems are delivered today. The second important quality is big picture thinking. What do I mean by that? We are often caught up with the nitty-gritty details of how a specific module works or how 2 or 3 modules work together when we integrate them. We forget to think about the big picture of how the software would behave as a solution when all the modules are put together. We don't pay attention to the business needs, how the software should behave in the customer environment, which is called as production environment, and the end-to-end flows in which the software would be used. Those things are pretty important and part of the big picture thinking. Whenever there is a new feature introduced to the software or a change done to the software, you need to analyze from the big picture angle on how the overall software behavior would be affected or how the customer needs would be affected. This is pretty important for customer delight and customer success. Another important thing that's part of big picture thinking is to assess the industry and business that the software is in and the gap that the software addresses in the business space. Things to consider are: does the software behavior adequately filling the business gap? Or what are the latest trends in the industry and the business that the software is in? Is there a possibility of a disruption that could invalidate the software or make it lose market share? Is this software foolproof in addressing this disruption, or will it fail to be used by the customers in the near future? These are also questions that you need to keep in mind and analyze while you are looking at the requirements and specifications of the software, and bring up with the team when you think that something is not right. This analysis will help the product and the software being successful. In today's world, there are a lot of dependencies in software. Almost every programming language uses packages, libraries, and open source software. As a software tester, from a big picture perspective, you need to thoroughly analyze what those dependencies are so that you can assess the risks involved in using those packages, libraries, and open source software. Most of the times, defects or deviance from the behavior in those software are not in your control, but you can look at ways to how to work around or overcome those defects or deviations so that your software would achieve its objectives. Note that this is not just the job of a developer, and testers too should take active part in analyzing these dependencies and giving feedback to the developers. Practically speaking, developers' time is limited and they might not have gone into all the details while inheriting these dependencies to the product code. So testers can take an active role in looking at the code and giving feedback on these dependencies. The third key quality that you as a software tester should have is attention to detail. We talked about big picture thinking. Attention to detail or paying attention to nitty-gritty details is also a very important aspect of being a successful software tester. Let me share my personal experience on why attention to detail is important. In the recent past, I have been interacting with a few financial organizations in correcting data that have been entered incorrectly in their systems by their employees with no fault of mine. The first issue was related to an institution entering a wrong reason or purpose code in a transaction which might affect me if the government authorities scrutinize that purpose code and ask me to show the transactions related to the wrong purpose code. The second instance was when two financial institutions interchanged the digits 0 and 1 while entering the numbers into the systems, which led to wrong personal information entered into the system and wrong account information entered into the system. I've been following up with these institutions for a month now to get them rectified, and it's a loss of everyone's time. A little bit of care while entering the numbers to make sure that they are entered correct would have saved everyone's time. This is why attention to detail is so important. Mistakes once made are difficult to correct in these days of digital records. Changes are costly and involve multiple people's time. There could also be regulatory and legal restrictions which might outright reject any kind of change. This is why attention to detail while doing something is very important. If we do it right the first time, every time, there won't be a need to redo it again. This is a key aspect towards software quality. Little things matter. Paying attention to what we are doing and ability to detect problems in what we are exploring is a key quality of a software tester. Little things like verifying the numbers mentioned in a specification, for example, number of users that can log into a website at a time, are important. Reading the specifications carefully for inadvertent errors is important too. For example, mentioning system should not behave instead of system should behave will lead to wrong implementations. Verifying that each and every system requirements are adequately covered that satisfies customer needs is a key part of being attentive. If you are able to find an issue in something that no one else in the room or the team was able to spot, congratulations, you are on the right way to qualify as a great tester. Because it's those little things that develop into big issues eventually. Now you might wonder, how do I develop my ability to spot those little things? There's no straightforward answer to that. You got to increase your observation and attention capabilities. You could practice this in many ways by being observant in several situations, grasp all the details of a specific situation, analyze and think through things from various angles, etc. If these things come naturally to you, that's wonderful. Otherwise, you got to consistently practice these skills to make them as an innate capability. You could make use of apps available as games related to these skills, which specifically focus on observation, attention, and analysis. By playing them on a daily basis, as well as practicing these skills in real time, you could become good at these. Now you are wondering if you are good at all of these three qualities. Don't worry. Some things come to people naturally. For things that don't come naturally, one got to practice to be good at them. If you are not naturally talented in any of the three qualities, but particular about being a software tester, not to worry. Those qualities can be developed through practice, doing assignments, exercises, internships, and such. If you need help or further information, you can contact me in Twitter at FlyVenkat, and I would be glad to help. In summary, if you have these three qualities that we talked about, you have a very good foundation to be a great software tester, because irrespective of the technology and the domain that you work in, these basic capabilities are all required. The qualities that I described not only helps in software testing, but also helps in other areas of life in being strategic, being observant and attentive, and being nimble and curious in learning things as they come and as they change. It's August 2021. Placements of college graduates are happening all over the world, and especially in India. Software testing is a great career for you if you have or acquire these three qualities that we talked about. I wish you all the best in getting placed in great organizations around the world, not only in this season, but also in every upcoming placement seasons of every year around the world as a software tester. I hope you learnt about how to answer the question, "Tell me about yourself," in this video. Please subscribe to my channel at the bottom right of the screen so that you can get to know about my future videos on software testing and quality. Happy testing! See you soon!